right, that's live. Hit it, Brad.
Welcome to episode 88 of Auto Off Topic Podcast. I am Brad.
And I'm your other host, Andrew. And in studio, we have AJ Vega today.
Hello.
Hello, AJ.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome down to Massachusetts from your home in the Great White North.
Yes, good old Maine.
Yes. Not quite Canada, but
just about.
Kind of might as well be.
I'm half Canadian, so we're pushing the edge there.
All right, I like it. We know AJ because he is involved with Mitsubishi Monteros, and obviously makes poor decisions in life like us.
Sure.
Very poor.
Yes.
Very poor.
Not all poor. He's made some good decisions.
We could talk forever about all my poor decisions.
Right.
Yes.
But any good ones.
Yes, good ones too.
Yeah. We do have an in-studio listener, so I'm making sure his fiance knows he makes good decisions as well, because he made a good decision with that one.
Got to keep it PC this time.
Yeah, well, we always got to keep it PC, just not PG.
Yes.
PC is
Sounds
good
good
because we're, good people.
Yes.
We like to be PC,
Yes.
usually.
Most of the time, yeah. Yeah, we're pretty good about that.
Anyway, so what's our topic of discussion tonight, Andrew? We're just going to kind of talk AJ and see what his story on cars has been.
Yeah,
and
well, why not start with why he's down here? Because that's an interesting story, I guess.
That is an interesting story to start with, actually.
And then we'll go
All
from
right.
there.
That's a good one.
So, AJ, why are you down here?
I'm down here because...
Throwing it right to the guest.
Well, here we go.
You sip my beer now. Which AJ brought. Thank you very much, AJ.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
You get that's the key to being a guest on the Auto Off Topic Podcast. Just bring beer, and you can come on and say whatever you want.
If you bring a 6-pack, you're just a regular guy. But if you bring a 12-pack, that's a different story.
Not a 12-pack, 2 individual 6-packs, because no good beer is sold in 12-packs.
No.
Well, at any rate, so I'm down in Massachusetts because I've come to retrieve a very special Dodge Raider.
And why is this Dodge Raider special, sir?
Because it'll soon be transformed into one of Mitsubishi's iconic 4x4s, fitted with a 4-cylinder,
Nope.
4-cylinder,
Yep.
2.5, backwards there, 4-cylinder, 2.5-liter turbo diesel engine.
Excellent. So you're basically making a Raider into a Pajero. Or
More or
Shogun,
less,
depending
yeah.
on
So-
what country you're coming from.
So this truck's a Shogun. I originally imported it from the UK from a good friend of mine.
Not the Raider you came down to work on.
This is a
your
different
other
truck.
Yeah.
No, it was a different truck. So a different truck at home, the Shogun, and it's an absolutely amazing truck. And I originally got it for this purpose of basically swapping the drivetrain into a clean, fresh body. Essentially because these trucks are typically hard to come by without emptying your wallet out.
For a really nice one.
For a really nice one, yeah. So I got lucky in my buddy, and was able to import this one relatively cheap, and for the purpose of putting a diesel in my truck. So at the time, I had an '89 V6 Montero. That was my first Montero.
Short wheelbase.
Short wheelbase,
Yeah.
yes. And actually, funny story, as a side note, my parents, when I was born, had a long wheelbase 1989, so Gen 1 Montero.
Yep.
And I actually didn't know. So when I bought this truck and I had showed my mom, she flipped out because I was basically born into this truck. I just never knew it. So
That's
it was
funny.
kind of like
Were you brought home from the hospital at 89 Montero?
I was.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I was
That's a cool story.
full circle. So
That goes and shows that you're a little bit younger than us, because I could not have been brought home in the hospital in 89
I guess yeah. Guess we can all guess my age at that point.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Within
it's
a
fine.
range. It's all good.
Yeah.
We're all in the same thing, the same boat, and it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter how old you are as long as you enjoy the cars.
So
Anyway, going back to your Montero.
Yeah,
Your
so
Raider.
basically,
Sorry, you don't even have Montero anymore, so.
I don't have a Montero anymore.
Yeah.
That's funny you bring that up. Yeah, I don't actually. Interesting.
You have 2 Montero-based vehicles.
I do have 2 Montero-based vehicles.
I
So
mean, they're basically Monteros.
Yeah, they're all Monteros.
I like the different names. It keeps the variety more interesting,
Keeps the general public confused.
especially when you fly past them on the wrong side of the car.
Yeah,
To me, I mean,
that's true.
it's the right side technically, but
The not left side.
the not left side.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I had this silver Montero that I drove across country. I'm originally from California, so I drove it from California out to Connecticut. Actually, I take that back. I did not drive it. I shipped it because at the
Okay.
time it was basically leaking coolant without showing signs of leaking coolant.
Okay.
So the coolant was disappearing and basically overheating, but never really overheating. It just got warm enough to
Get warm.
and cause issues. So I shipped it across and I rebuilt it and brought it home. Well, the motor was okay, but it was high mileage and it never ran great. And I always wanted to put a diesel in it. So I came across this Shogun and imported it, and I was going to take the driveline out of it and put it in the silver truck. Well, lo and behold, the Shogun was in such great shape mechanically that I said, well, forget it. I'll just drive it for a little while. It's great, you know. Get used to it, see what its quirks are, see what it needs, see what it doesn't need, and go from there. Well, money got tight, and I ended up getting rid of my silver Montero from California. So it was beautiful, but I didn't have it anymore. So winter came. I took it to a guy to get undercoated. He did a pretty terrible job on it, and long story short, it got a little bit worse.
This is the Shogun.
Yeah, this is the Shogun. It got a little bit worse. Got a little bit worse with all the rust and salt that Maine likes to put on the roads. So I basically wanted to find a new truck to transplant, and a truck came up in North Carolina.
It was North
Yeah,
Carolina.
it was North Carolina. God, it's just so
Feels
a
like it was
while
so long ago.
I know. So I found a truck in North Carolina, and good friend Brad here went down and picked it up for me and brought it back to Massachusetts. So I have finally had the time to come down and hang out with you guys and check it out and bring it home for its new
heart transplant
voyage on life, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not your fault that took so long. I mean, it's just been winter
well.
held on so long this year, and then once winter finally did break, we both had stuff going on each weekend, whether we were away or doing something else, and it just didn't work out until now because you're about 2.5 hours north, probably.
About 2.5 to 3.
Yeah, so it's not
quite a ways up there.
It's not a close drive, so
you cross the border of Maine and then you realize, oh wow, I still have another 2.5 hours.
well, it's
to
only
go.
like 25 minutes to Maine from my house, so it's, getting into Maine is not bad, but Maine's a big state, so especially when compared to Massachusetts.
But today you guys took the truck wasn't running at all?
No, it was already partially disassembled.
Yeah,
the silver truck.
The guy I bought it from said that he set the timing wrong and then bent the valve, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, we actually tested it today, not running at all, but we spun it over.
It seemed to make good compression all
it was
around, but
fine
we
compression.
didn't officially test it, so there could be something weird going on.
Yeah, who knows? But hey,
The plan is to pull the motor out anyway.
Yeah,
You know it's free. You know it spins over. You know it does make
motor's gonna
some
go to a
sort
good
of
home.
compression. Somebody else wants it.
You
so-
honestly could have had the ignition wires wrong.
which is why I got my Raider when I did.
Yeah.
Remember, I had to change the ignition wires around and started right up.
Oh yeah.
So
Huh.
Yeah.
So, in any rate, we worked on it a little bit. Essentially, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pulling the body off of it and soda blasting and then recoating the underside of the body as well as the frame. It's in really great shape for the year.
yeah, being a southern truck,
Yeah,
it's
so
really
it's
good for it.
beautiful. So it's going to be a perfect transplant for this diesel, which runs mint. So that's really exciting because I love these trucks. I, unbeknownst to me, grew up with them, and I couldn't imagine having another truck. I don't want to buy a new truck. I don't need a new truck. I love this truck. So
And that's how we know AJ. We know him from doing off-road trips with the Northeast Mitsubishi Montero
the weird right-hand drive
owner group.
turbo diesel,
Right.
one that blows a lot of smoke if you stand
Well,
too close to it.
they all blow a lot of smoke. They're Monteros. I mean, let's get real.
Great for
here.
keeping the mosquitoes away.
Yeah. Yeah. They did spraying for mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's all we're doing. Doing Maine a favor. No big deal at all.
Get rid of those black flies.
So anyway, the plan initially was to pull the motor out of it today. And then we decided last minute that it was kind of silly to pull the motor out through the body.
If I was just going to pull the body off of it
If
anyway.
we were just going to pull the body out the frame anyway.
So
yeah.
what the heck? Why waste the time? Let's go play with the Colt.
Right. Well, first we finished. We disconnected everything under the hood, so that the only thing you have to disconnect when you get the truck back to Maine is the steering and the brakes.
Correct.
Which we didn't want to disconnect, so you can still make it mobile to roll it around, to get on up the trailer, on the yard, whatever you got to do. So we left the steering connected and the brakes connected, but literally disconnected pretty much everything else. So I think we should be able to lift the body once you've unbolted it right off the frame, no issue at all.
Yep.
So hopefully.
Body will come off, and then we'll unbolt the engine and transmission, lift it out.
Yep.
At that time, the Shogun will be pretty much ready to be sort of dismantled, and we'll just do the exact same thing to that truck. We'll pull the diesel engine out of that with the transmission paired to it, and then plop it into the new
Drop
truck.
it in the freshly coated frame.
Exactly.
So
So that's the plan. Who knows how close we'll get to that?
hopefully you finish it, because that'll be a cool truck.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'll be able to get it finished before winter, because I need to use it as a winter vehicle.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a 300D would do all that great.
Not only that, but the 300D is really nice.
It is
not rusty.
so nice.
So I'd hate to see it drive it in the winter.
I mean,
there.
if you work on it a little bit, a couple hours every day, it'll get done.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
The
It'll be a fun project too.
what is it? It's definitely direct bolt in though. It should be.
It's direct bolt-in, yeah.
Okay.
So one of the greatest things about these diesel trucks is that they're based on the exact same platform as all of the trucks that we got here in America.
Yeah.
So before the year 89, we had we had the 4-cylinder engine here, the 4G63. G54B.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. G54B.
Or 4G54.
I'm triggered.
Yeah.
4G54. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those two.
I'm upset now.
Yeah. He said 4G63 and compared it to a 4D.
I kept thinking to Ed Jones and all of his wonderful engines that he puts in his truck and makes this thing lightning fast. It's pretty cool.
Who?
Ed Jones from the Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
Fast Eddie.
Yeah, in insider baseball right there.
Yes.
With the Montero Facebook page.
Way out in left
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
But at any rate, so in the eastern countries, they came. Basically, the way you could tell these diesels apart is they either came with an intercooler or they did not. So previous to '89, they did not come with an intercooler, and then Mitsubishi got a little bit smarter and said, "Hey, let's put an intercooler on that. That'll make a little bit better power. It'll be a little bit more efficient." So they threw an intercooler on it, and it comes with that really cool hood, which was something that I was kind of after.
Well, the 80s technology with turbochargers, a lot of cars were not intercooled turbo in the 80s.
Right.
So not just Mitsubishi. That was just they were really learning the technology as they went along and learning how to make them efficient and make them make power and make them reliable for consumers.
Correct. So essentially, these trucks are pretty vast in the eastern countries, and they are like a crossbreed between what we have for equipment here with the V6 and equipment for the 4-cylinders. And what I mean by that is the 4D56 is the same family of engines as the G54B and the 4G63. Whereas for the V6, you've got the V5MT1, which is the transmission, and the CAM148, which is the automatic and manual transmission that comes behind the V6. So those transmissions are paired to the intercooled turbocharged 4-cylinder diesels.
But not the 4-cylinder gas trucks.
Exactly. So it's kind of a weird combination, but essentially you've got
Best of both worlds.
the best of both worlds. You've got a really stout transmission and a really stout engine with a bell housing that can pair the both of them.
Whereas with my 4-cylinder gas truck, I have the worst engine and the worst transmission.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah.
There could be argument for the worst truck too.
This is true.
Well, I mean, if it has the worst engine and the worst transmission, then I'm going to go with, it's probably the worst of the trucks. So I won't argue
But
that point.
it's still a great truck.
I do still
nonetheless.
love my truck.
Yes.
Yeah. Y'all can pound it.
I had one. I loved it.
Yeah.
Until it heard.
Yep. Mm.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to say
They run great. They're awesome
Yep.
trucks.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in true off-topic fashion, when I was up visiting you guys today, mine died.
Andrew's Montero died. Yes.
I mean, we're really selling the dream here.
Andrew's
They're
Montero.
great trucks. They're great trucks.
Andrew's Montero has now become part of the Brad's yard of broken dreams
Yeah.
for a day or two. While it's
One
there
Montero
waiting.
leaves, the next one comes in.
I was so excited to get your Silver Raider out of there today, and Andrew comes up to hang out, and his truck breaks in its spot. It's like, come on.
Just got to fill the spot. It's an
Yeah.
empty hole in that house.
Yeah, my neighbors will all appreciate it. No big deal.
Oh, definitely.
It's just a fuel pump. I'll change it tomorrow.
I honestly, I don't even care. I don't even care. Life goes on.
It's broken in worse places.
They have broken in worse places. Yes, at least I don't have to go to Vermont to retrieve it this time.
Yeah, or the '89 Montero that broke on the side of the road. So
Yeah. Well, the fact that the '89 Montero spit its fuel pump out on the side of the road in Maine, and we managed to fix it on the side of the road in Maine on a Sunday, is why we know we have no problem fixing this one's fuel pump in the driveway with all the proper tools and all the time in the world. So it shouldn't be an issue.
See, it's so funny. Like, I never had any horrible mechanical issues like that. I only had
there's still time.
Disappearing coolant.
yeah, I'd had disappearing coolant. That was the worst with the V6.
Transmission that locked up.
I did have that. Well, no, it didn't lock up. It actually grenaded.
Okay, whatever.
Driving down the street,
I've never
like
had
a bag of
I've never had a
buckshot.
mechanical problems except for the transmission that blew up, and yeah,
I forget all those times. You know, you got to wipe them out.
right.
Wipe them out of
It's
memory.
an abusive relationship.
Yeah, really, the only problems I really had were the gas gauge. The gas gauge, notoriously in these vehicles, the fuel sending unit goes bad, and you lose your gas gauge. So you had to start tracking your mileage and being on top of it. Well, if you forget to reset your mileage after you fill up, and you forget where you started from,
You just pour gas in it and hope for the
you
best.
end up like me on the side of the highway in the middle of Maine. You know, pouring rain out, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Probably no cell service. 'Cause
No
it's
cell,
Maine.
no cell service. I mean, never any cell service. You know.
Yeah.
So that
No
was
bueno.
fun. That was fun.
No bueno.
Good times.
So anyway, that's the ultimate plan with the new Raider
Yes.
to you is to swap all the Shogun parts over and make kind of like a Shogun.
We're gonna make the nicest, cleanest Shogun there is in North America, because I think it's actually the only Shogun in North America.
Yeah, most people import them from other countries, so they get Pajeros,
Exactly.
not Shoguns.
But
But the Shogun was
The
sold in
Shogun's a
England.
Pajero, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was
Pagetto.
yeah, it was like a rebadge, just like the Raider was a rebadged Montero.
They're all Monteros in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All the
Depending
same
on
thing.
what country they were sold in. So actually, it was sold in England originally, correct? So it would have been a Colt Shogun.
Correct. It was
Yeah.
actually it was sold for the JDM market and then was imported to the European market.
Brand new.
Well, it was first registered. This truck in particular was first registered in 1992, if I remember correctly.
And what year
from
is the truck?
registration? 89.
Oh, okay.
So it was in Japan for
2
like
years.
2 years, and then immigrated.
But it was sold through a new dealership in England.
No, it was sold.
So it was
through a
sold in the
used-
secondhand market.
Yeah,
Okay.
secondhand market.
I thought it was sold brand new in England because it has so many weird little English features
Yeah,
on it, like
well-
the weird plate frame and the weird light in the back.
It's so weird. I mean, it's kind of fishy in a way, but I guess back in those days, England, some of the English importers were trying to, supersede some of the laws and get these trucks into the country because they were, let's be honest, terrific trucks. And
Till the transmission grenade and
yeah, until the transmission grenade. But hey, none of that's happened with the diesel except for the clutch. But we won't go into that.
that's a wear item. That's fine.
That's where I am. Yeah. So, in any rate, they brought them in and they added their own sort of touch to it so that it would pass their own inspections, which are very stringent. Not as stringent as Japan, but definitely on the level below. So they got different not turn indicators, but windshield wiper column switches. They got the little fog light in the rear, which was mandatory for all British vehicles. They got massive license plates. So
I think it's a European thing to have that
The rear fog
facing
light,
fog light.
yeah.
yeah, actually, it's a funny story. I got pulled over by a cop 1 a.m. in the morning driving down to New Jersey for the East Coast MOD.
Yep.
So I was driving along with our good friend Eric Carr-Hollis, and in the middle of nowhere, and I turned my fog light on just, because it was dark, it was foggy. I figured, well, use a fog light in the fog.
Might as well be seen.
Yeah. And in the middle of nowhere, all of a sudden, I look in my rearview mirror, and there's a pair of lights with like a red dot in where the windshield would be. And then the pinball machine came on and pulled me over.
We were in Connecticut or New Jersey?
I was in New Jersey,
Oh, okay.
and I had been driving from Maine since 4 o'clock in the morning. So the officer walks up to the window and looks in, license and
in the
registration
wrong side of the
plates.
car. He's already thrown up.
But she freaked out, or as she came up, she was totally caught off guard because I was on the wrong side of the truck.
I can imagine
Thought
that
you
happens
jumped
probably
to the
a
other
lot.
side.
Yeah. Took a steering wheel with
There
him.
was a driver here,
Yeah.
a couple minutes ago. I don't know what happened to him. And she came back and asked me if I was drinking, and it's like, no, I've just been driving for 14 hours or something like that
all day.
pretty much. And I basically she came back and said, yeah, you have a taillight out, so just be mindful of that, and be safe.
You're like, I do.
was like, I have a taillight out? And then sure enough, I figured out, oh, she saw the unmatched one-sided fog light. So,
which you'd think, being in New Jersey, she'd be familiar with, because all those people down there that drive their Audis around with the one-sided fog light. That's a common thing on even an American market Audi. They keep that rear-facing fog light in there. But
yeah,
I think more modern German cars have gone to dual fog
they
lights because it's weird.
Yep.
And it freaks people out. So, but I noticed it when I was in Portugal. There was a lot of imported cars. You could tell were imported probably directly from Japan, or they were imports and they quickly made them legal for European use. Like first Miata had a fog light just like tacked onto the bumper.
yeah, a lot of stuff looks tacked on for imported cars over there. Which, I mean, even your rear-facing fog light looks tacked on because it's
more or less. I mean, it's got an actual bracket and it's bolted in, but yes, it does look like it was an add-on.
added on top afterwards.
For sure.
Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah.
The bumper's kind of nice too because it's got the little fog lights in the bumper. It mimics the Gen 2, Gen 2.5.
It looks a lot like a Gen 2, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but
it's a cool truck.
it's a great truck. I love it. I would never go back to a gasoline version of these things. I mean, it's just for what they're meant for, and it's amazing. I went
It's how the car was probably designed to be.
And everybody always talks about how much gas mileage can you get out of a diesel? Well, it's not really
better than a gas truck, probably.
Yeah, it's not really the point of the Shogun, the Pajero, and the Montero is a diesel version, but it's a nice thing to talk about. I mean,
it's certainly not the point to have gas mileage either, because they don't.
Right, it's fuel mileage.
Well, you got that torque off down low.
No,
too.
I mean in general, none of them have good fuel mileage.
Well, this one actually, on a good day, we'll just put that in asterisks. On a good day, it's about 25 miles to the gallon.
That's pretty damn good.
That's really good.
Considering
for
my
a
four-cylinder
truck like
gas
that.
truck gets like 17.
Pretty darn good. Whereas my V6 got like 14.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
pretty
really?
good.
Yeah.
I'd get like 18 out of the long wheelbase.
I think it was because I had these ridiculous tires on them that were unevenly worn, and it was just a mess.
I had stock size tires, so my 89 long wheelbase would get about 18
That's pretty good.
if you weren't going too hot. But also, it had a 24-gallon tank, so it was deceptive because you're like, "Oh, I've gone a while," but you've really
Just used more fuel.
Used a lot of fuel. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
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 So anyway, moving on from his car to my project car update.
Yeah. Because you guys, after you finished with getting the engine prep to come out,
Yep.
you decided to
Move on to the 79 Colt.
which is parked next to you.
Yes. Well, we moved it there. Actually, it wasn't parked there before
Oh, okay.
because I couldn't move it myself because the wheels are not exactly free rolling. They roll free, but not
Yeah,
like.
they're a little grind.
Yeah, they're a little tight.
Yeah, a
Need
little
to be
tight.
greased up and taken care of.
Well, the
Brakes
rotors are rusty.
very rusty. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we decided to try to get the 79 Colt running today.
Yeah.
So close. Yet
So close.
So far.
So close. We could it cranked over, no problem at all. I put a battery in it and it cranked over real good.
Mm-hmm.
Would start though because there's no fuel getting to it. So we put some ether in there, and it seemed to fire up pretty good on the ether. And then once the ether burned off, the car would obviously stall out. Decided to bypass the fuel filter and get a new fuel filter.
Which was gunked up with like a solid circular.
Yeah, there was like a little ball inside of it.
Cylindrical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solidified
Ball of
fuel. Yeah.
Gunk.
So we took care of that, put another fuel filter in it, tried to crank it over some more, still got nothing out of it. So then we went straight into a fuel tank from the fuel pump, and it seemed to be pumping fuel through.
Yeah, it pumped
But-
it through very nicely.
Sucking some fuel in, yeah.
Yeah, but the car is not starting yet. So
I think the car probably needs to be cleaned.
car probably needs to be cleaned out. Plus, who knows how old the plugs are.
Plugs,
Wires.
Plugs, wires, cap, rotor.
caps.
Is there points in that thing?
There are points, but they're probably fine.
Sure.
I'll check them anyway. But I'll get new ones in there anyway. But anyway, good news is car cranked. Car stumbled to life on ether. It wants to run. The motor runs. It didn't even really smoke that much at the back, I don't think.
No.
So it seemed to be in decent working shape. So
Definitely.
Yeah, throw some, when you take the plugs out, drop some Mr. Oil down the cylinders
okay, I can do that.
because it's not running correctly. Right. Okay. I phrased that wrong. It's not running
Right.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting the oil pump is not pumping oil up into the engine yet,
Okay.
and those rings might be dry.
Okay.
So you just want you don't want to ruin the rings in the engine.
Put a few drops in each.
Yeah,
Okay.
just
I
to
can
help
do that.
it, and actually do that, and then let it sit for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
and then go fire it up. And yeah, then it's going to smoke out the back, but
Yeah, it's gonna be burning.
at least you'll have some
Yeah.
lubrication in the upper cylinders until
Okay.
the engine is like running and has good oil pressure flowing through it.
Yeah, I can do that.
So I do that.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Probably a good hot tip from Andrew. See, I told you Andrew's going to yell at me for just
Good hot
going
tip.
ahead and trying to start it.
Yeah, I would have pulled the plugs and put oil in there and turned it over
Yeah,
because you don't know if it was locked up or
I do know now. Wasn't locked up.
well, you got lucky.
Thank goodness. It was empty on gas, like completely empty,
It
bone
was
dry.
definitely empty on gas. Yeah, it's almost like they drained it out when they parked it at one point.
Either drained it or evaporated.
Well, it could have been that too, or it could be solidified in the bottom of the tank.
That's true.
Yeah. Not
yeah,
sure
how do
which
you know it was
is.
empty?
Well, because you put my ear right to the filler neck, and I shook the car side to side,
Oh,
and I couldn't hear it inside
Oh.
there. And it's only
you tell how many miles away the oil was coming?
listen. There's no baffles or anything in there, and if there's any liquid in there, you'd hear it moving. So I mean, I can hear it in the other cold.
No sloshing.
There's no sloshing.
Not at all.
I mean, the filler neck is only like 1.5 feet long, so it's not like there's a.
It's an interesting method. I would never thought of doing that.
Well, it worked. Did it not work? It worked.
It worked great.
Yeah. So we put gas
it was
in
very
it,
clear
and
that
then you
it
could
was
hear
no
it.
gas.
Yeah.
Didn't run.
So a small, older car, the fuel tank is close to the filler neck, so it's nice and easy to do it that way. So anyway, that's just a small project or update. I haven't done a ton with it yet, but I did try to get it started today. Encouraged that it did crank over. Encouraged that it did fire on ether. So I don't think it'll be much to get it running.
That'll be the least of the worries.
All right, project car update.
Yeah.
Project car down date. We're good.
Where's their down date? Oh, you're down date. Yeah, your car's broken. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So your Raider is taken apart. Obviously doesn't run. Your Montero is broken. Obviously doesn't run. My new Colt is not running yet either.
But the
so-
Shogun runs great, just for clarity.
Right. So none of our cars worked on today running.
That's true.
That's
okay,
fine.
though. That's okay, though.
All right. So going back
They can't all be good days.
earlier, you said you were originally from California. Shall we start from the beginning or?
I think we should do
Wherever you guys like.
Where does AJ get his love of vehicles from?
That's where I was going.
Oh, goodness.
Sorry.
That's a really hard one to figure out. A lot of it I'd have to attribute to my father. He had quite a love for cars. His first car was a 72 or 73. I think it was a 73 Datsun 240Z.
Solid choice.
Solid choice. I wish I had, been alive to see it. I've only seen pictures, and I've seen, other cars in person, but never got a chance to ride in one. Never driven one. Nothing. Beautiful car. So
One of my all-time favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward a couple years, I was probably 8, and he found a 1974 De Tomaso Pantera in Chicago, Illinois. He went out.
Our amazing cars.
Yes. Oh my God. Era of the wedge.
Yeah.
Beautiful car. And essentially it had, I think it was about, I'm going to lie here, but I think it was like 7,000 to 8,000 miles on the car.
7 or 8 or 78.
7,000 to 8,000.
So it was pretty much a brand new car.
Pretty much, yeah. And this was back in like, I'm not gonna do math at this hour of the night, but
Mid 90s.
yeah, at some point like that.
Considering you said what year you came home and what vehicle it was, so we'll go mid 90s.
Yeah,
late
mid
to
90s, late 90s,
All
maybe
right.
early 2000, maybe.
Okay.
And so we brought it home, and the thing was bone stock original. I mean, bone stock. It had the original Campagnolo, like brushed steel rims, white paint, gated shifter. I mean, the whole 9 yards. The thing was absolutely original. 350 Cleveland.
351.
351? 351.
Yeah, the Ford's 351s.
351.
Yeah.
That extra 1 cubic inch.
Hey, just gotta clarify. we don't want to get listener complaints.
Hate mail.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I only drive them. No, I'm just kidding. I love working on them too. But the car kind of ran like a dog. So he had it rebuilt and, updated and blah, 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 stroked and bored, 427 stroker. And it ended up turning out a healthy 596.7 horsepower. So this was the first car I learned how to drive stick on. Now
that is frightening.
most people don't learn how to drive on a car with, learn how to drive stick on a car
On a
with
Pantera.
on a Pantera, let alone a car with
hot rod
596 horsepower. And the thing was just a demon. I mean, absolute. You'd touch the throttle and it was 40 miles an hour instantly. I mean, you could not drive the car without spinning the wheels. At least I couldn't.
Right, because you were a new teenage driver.
Yeah. So he was used to get angry at me though because I didn't know how to actuate the clutch, and I had a sport clutch in it, a racing clutch or whatever, and it would basically warp the clutch. So every time he got back in to drive it, it would like wobble,
Overheated, so it shattered. Yeah.
But it was the first car I learned how to drive on, and boy, oh boy, what an experience that was.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, talk about your expectations being shot down for every car in the future.
Just about.
Yeah.
I remember being like,
I guess that's how you get into like really slow cars like Monteros. Like you just start real high, and then you get nowhere to go. So you're just like, I'll go down slow now.
Yeah, I got it low and slow. So I was a kid, detailing the engine, because you could take the rear tray out of that car because it was a rear engine car, and actually it was mid-engine. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So you could take the rear tray out of it and sit on the transmission and polish the heads and polish the headers and the intake manifold, and it was just so much fun for me. I loved being in that engine compartment. You could smell like the exhaust fumes that were still left over and little bits of gas droplets and so on and so forth. So that car was just like oozed,
It's hard not to get into cars if you apologize a Pantera.
Oh my God, it was such an amazing car.
It's a pretty awesome car.
It was an amazing car. And I grew up riding dirt bikes, so I was always outdoors, always adventuring, and I just loved that, off-road travel. So my first car was a 99 Tacoma. Great truck. Sadly lost it early on due to familial issues. I never got in an accident. I wasn't one of those teens, thankfully. And after that Tacoma was gone, I ended up finding my 89 Montero. But really the car scene for me started so early. I mean, I was like bred into it as a kid, as a baby. I mean, I remember going to the NHRA drag races in Pomona, California, watching those drag races with the big, fat earmuffs going down the track at 300 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think growing up in Southern California it's hard not to become a car person.
It was really hard not to be.
It's surrounded by some of the best car culture in the world.
I mean, you have the Long Beach Indy Grand Prix that we used to go to every year.
Yeah, because it was your backyard.
Pretty much.
So why not?
Yeah, we lived 30 minutes away.
I think it's every car culture exists in Southern California.
Yeah.
You have everything, literally
There's a
everything.
subset for everything.
You have the drag racing, you have road racing,
Hot rods,
lowriders, customs,
4x4s,
4x4s is off-road,
everything. So, and he was he raced shifter carts for fun with a friend of his, and so
This is your father as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I used to go to some of his races with that, and
Yep.
and then he got the Pantera, and we used to go out to Willow Springs, which was a racetrack out in basically the border of the Mojave Desert. And he put it on the track a couple times, and then realized that it was a fantastic car, but it just was not.
It was not a track car.
Yeah, it wasn't a track car. It just wasn't built for it. It wanted to stand on it and fly past a Miata at 120 miles an hour.
And then brake really hard for the turn because it was a 74 Pantera.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I'd always been around him. I mean, it was really due to him, and then I kind of took it on myself. So really where I got super deep into it is in 8th grade, I had a research project that lasted the whole year. And you basically got to choose your own topic, and I chose to do Formula One. So the premise of the project was to basically learn as much as you could about it. It was a real research project, and you had to interview people. So I began with a gentleman by the name of Philippe de L'Espinay, who was a championship MotoGP racer.
Again, Southern California, you have access to
yes,
all these people.
Lots of guys, lots of fantastic people with incredible stories. And Philippe was the most amazing guy I had ever met at this point in my life, because he literally rattled off the entire history like from a textbook, all from within his mind, for like a 4 to 5 hour interview, meeting. And we were walking around.
And this is to an 8th grade kid. He took the time to sit down and sit with you and talk, which is pretty awesome.
It was the coolest experience. He spoke to me about every little detail in Formula One, and it just it has me shaking thinking about it. Like he could tell me everything. So it was brilliant for the report, and it was brilliant for my excitement over all of these cars. And in addition to that, where we were talking was in a 20,000 square foot garage filled with race cars. The Danny Sullivan's March 711 Formula One car, and Can-Am cars, another March variant of Ferrari 400i, a Diablo. Just everything you could imagine. It was a collector's garage that this gentleman worked for,
which is awesome.
Which was super cool. So I got to go interview him in this location, and I just part of me was blown away by what he was telling me, and part of me was blown away by all the cars I was standing around. Yeah. Seeing these cars as kids racing around tracks. So I had a conversation with him, and I interviewed him, and I got all the information and put it into my report, and I had to go on to the next person. Well, the next person ended up being the legend, Dan Gurney.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dan, this is no joke.
Another
Dan,
person from Long Beach.
Yep.
Yeah, Dan Gurney, from the All-American Racing
team,
the Eagles, and
So now you're in 8th grade still. It's the same year. And you've gone from this guy. Now you're interviewing Dan Gurney.
Interviewing Dan Gurney, yes. It took a lot of work. It was no walk in the park, that's for sure. But it took many calls, and I essentially just called every day and said, look, I really just only need 4 minutes of your time. And this was to his secretary, so I never really got to talk to him about, hey, I really want to talk to you. But every day I called, 4 minutes. I just need 4 minutes of your time to just ask you a couple of questions. I'm doing this research report for Formula One.
Of course.
And finally, she gave in, and I think he saw the persistence that I was kind of giving, and wanted so badly to be able to ask him just a couple of these questions. And he gave me the opportunity to interview him over the phone. I didn't get to meet him, but I got to speak to him on the phone, and it was I can't sit still in my chair thinking about it.
Yeah, that's an amazing experience.
Shaking.
Wow. That's an amazing experience. Like we did this whole episode on Dan Gurney after he passed, because he's such an influence in racing history in this country and in the world.
Amazing racer. He went from so many different aspects of racing, Grand Am racing, Le Mans, Formula One, IndyCar. So many different aspects, and he won it all. He was an amazing racer. So I interviewed him, with the focus on Formula One, and asked a couple questions, and we had a relatively quick conversation, because it was a very busy
Dan
man.
Gurney.
Yeah, Dan Gurney.
And you're just some kid in 8th grade.
I was just some kid in 8th grade, But he gave me the chance to talk to him, and it was the most amazing experience, being able to speak to this man that I
that's pretty awesome.
Kind of looked up to as a kid, watching reruns of his races, and his son
I've
racing.
heard the story before, and you were invited to his garage after that, were you not?
I was invited to his garage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
His full-on private manufacturing facility where they made all of the American racing, Eagle cars and the Alligator. Everything. His motorcycles. and it was just incredible, super low key. But unfortunately, I was extremely bummed by this, but on the day that I went to go visit him, he had taken a morning ride on one of his motorcycles on the Ortega Highway, which is a pretty nice highway to take a ride on a Saturday morning. And he blacked out and hit the ground and had to be sent to the hospital. So I didn't get to meet him, but his secretary walked us around the entire facility, and we got to look at all of his cars that he had raced in. I mean, with the original tires that had touched the Indianapolis 500 Speedway.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, just
that's like every kid's dream. So here you are in 8th grade, living every kid in the entire country. every car enthusiast.
And I was the only one there. It was just me and my dad just walking around with this lady, and
that's
she
awesome.
was telling us about all the history, and I got to shake Alex Gurney's hand.
Like I felt special at the Peterson Museum in the Gurney room, looking at some of his cars. I can only imagine being in his actual garage.
Yeah,
like
his
blows
garage,
my mind.
His garage. I mean, it was just incredible. And
blows my mind.
They had some. I remember when we were there, they had some like monocoque that they were building for the next car. It was all wrapped in like carbon fiber, and they had it laid out. I mean, it was just gorgeous. And being able to see, inside an operation like that, an operation that was literally winning every championship out there. I mean, it was just incredible.
Yeah, that's cool.
Never forget that experience. So moving on from the Dan Gurney experience back to the Philippe de L'Espinay experience, the guy that Philippe de L'Espinay worked for, the owner of this car collection, saw my interest and asked me if I wanted to work alongside his engine specialist, who was an engineer from Canada. And I said, that's exactly what I said. I was speechless. I was like, yes, absolutely. And I didn't have a car at the time, so I had to wake up really early. And,
because you're like 14.
Yeah, I was 14.
Yeah.
13, 14. And I basically worked in this garage as, sort of an apprentice. So I did a lot of, I did some organizing and cleaning of some of the shop, because it was kind of thrown together last minute. He was still in construction phase, but I remember detailing like his, what was it? It was the little red wagon funny car.
Oh, the drag racing.
The drag
racing
wheel standing truck.
That's awesome.
The Ford Econoline pickup truck.
Yeah. No, the Dodge.
Yes.
Yeah, Dodge.
It was a Dodge.
Yeah, D100.
Golly, I'm just so many errors this car.
That's all right. You had the memory.
I had the memory right. Yes. And he had it on the stand and everything, so it looked like it was, doing a wheelie. Uh-huh. And so I got to work for him, and I organized and cleaned, a lot of his cars and the parts, and I worked alongside the engine specialist. And at the time we were going through I can't remember what year it was, but it was a Ferrari 400i.
Yep.
That needed a rebuilt engine. It was a big V12. It was a V12.
Yeah, front engine V12.
Yes, massive.
400i is the one that's very wedgy. It's a 4-seat front engine.
I can't picture this car.
They were kind of unloved. They came in a standard automatic. The automatics came with a GM 3-speed. There should not be one up there.
That's a Daytona.
That's a Daytona, yeah. It's got a similar angled nose to a Daytona.
Very similar. Looks very similar to a Daytona.
Mid 80s,
early 80s,
late 70s, early 80s Ferraris that aren't that great looking.
It depends on who you ask.
I
think
very classy. Yeah. Very classy.
It shares a lot of similar lines to like a Bitter SC.
Okay.
Or a De Tomaso.
Mangusta. No, not a Mangusta.
The one after the Pantera.
Vallelunga, or
what was the other Ferrari? The
Longchamp.
Longchamp. Thank you.
That's what it was.
Not a late Dino, but what was the other one?
It kind of looks like a late Dino, but
what's
boxy.
The other the 2+2 Ferrari?
Ooh. From that era?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It kind of looked like a Lamborghini Espada, but instead of the back
just
going
a more square
straight
one.
across, it was kind of slanted downwards.
Yeah, it's a coupe. It's got a trunk lid and everything.
A Mondial.
It's kind of the similar design language as a Mondial.
Mondial?
Yeah, kind of a similar design language. Same era.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Those wedgy.
I
Ferraris.
like the 400i a lot, but I also like a Longchamp, and I also like a bitter SC, and I also like all kinds of terrible things. So, and Andrew's nodding into the microphone.
You have terrible
Story checks
taste.
out. I have terrible taste.
Terrible taste.
Hang out with Andrew, it's, my taste is questionable.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
But anyway, so yeah, the 400i is the 4-place Ferrari from the early 80s, late 70s. I don't know exactly when it was produced, but
Yeah. And then
I like them. But
And then, of
what do I
course,
know?
by all means, the weirdest looking Formula One car ever produced, the March 711, Danny Sullivan's Formula One car from, I think it was 1978 or something.
What was weird about that one?
It looked like a backwards whale. So it looked like an early 60s Formula One car, but it had a regular rear spoiler, rear wing, but it had
I have to look this one up 'cause I
this
don't know this
front wing that didn't go below the nose of the car. It came above the monocoque and looked like a whale wing, but on the front of the car.
Is he the Irish driver?
No, he was Swedish.
Oh, Sullivan.
Yeah, Danny Sullivan.
I would have thought Irish. Yeah.
It's a bizarre looking car. It's red.
Oh, so the wing sticks out from the front of the car.
sticks out from the front. That exact car. That exact car right there.
Oh, okay.
It's a bizarre looking car.
It was super bizarre, but it was very, very cool. And all these cars worked, which was the coolest part about it. He could turn any one of these things on. And this, of course, had a beautiful V8 in the back of it, velocity
stacks. Ford V8. Yeah.
Yes. Open wheeled, and it just looked bizarre, but it was the coolest car. So
That was really neat.
It was a really, really fascinating experience. It's really what shot me even deeper into the car world. I mean, I remember learning some stuff from the engine specialist, and I went home and tinkered on my truck that was sitting outside that I hadn't been able to drive yet because I didn't have my permit.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out and straightened the radiator fins, and I cleaned this and cleaned that, and it was so much
all
fun.
stuff that didn't need to be done.
No, not at all.
But you wanted to
Not
anyway.
at all.
Yeah.
And then, of course, more things came along. We ended up with a Honda SL70 from '73 that needed restoring, and we took the whole thing apart and then rebuilt it back together. And I used to ride it around the neighborhood with my good friend at the time. And my dad wasn't really the type to get his hands dirty and like work on a vehicle like I have been known to do, but I latched onto it, and it's been my passion ever since I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Again, it's that whole Southern California. You can't.
I really
can't
did.
throw a rock without hitting a race shop. You can't throw a rock without hitting somebody involved in car culture. You just I think he told a story once about selling a dirt bike on like Craigslist, and who bought it.
Oh,
because of where you lived.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we I had an old CRF 100, this little dirt bike.
And again, this just goes to prove the whole. You can't do anything out there without running into some famous racing drivers.
So I grew up in a town called El Segundo, and we moved to another town called Playa del Rey, which was just north of the airport, whereas El Segundo was just south of the airport. So we just moved across the airport, essentially. And down about 5 minutes away, there was this place called Marina del Rey. Mm-hmm. And there was a gentleman that had responded to an ad that my father had put out for my dirt bike that we were getting rid of. And he came around in a brand new Porsche Panamera.
Okay.
It kind of caught us off guard because it's like, why are you buying a used, 2005 Honda CRF dirt bike? Like, what the heck? Turns out the guy was a factory Porsche racing driver for the Le Mans series as well as the Grand Am series.
Who I think it is?
Patrick Long. Yeah.
Whoa.
He just showed up at his house to buy his dirt bike.
Weird.
It's so weird.
It's so weird.
First time he's telling me that story, he's like, "Yeah, the guy coming out is Patrick." I was like, "Patrick Long?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's him." I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
He just
Patrick Long.
Yeah.
Patrick Long came and bought my old dirt bike.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. So.
Crazy story. Like,
Yep.
And he
why do we live in Massachusetts?
He
again?
lived 5 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it.
It's pretty awesome stuff.
And he was the nicest guy on the planet. I mean, he gave me like one of his pamphlets and the card as to all of his racing stats. I was like, ooh. So every time we watched a race, I was like, Patrick Long.
Yep.
That's cool. That's such a cool, like, feel-good story about, a racing driver who, reached out to somebody who, just because he was doing something else, like a normal person. Like, you don't think of these people you see on television racing cars as normal people. Like, they're race car drivers, that's all they do. You don't think of anything else. You don't think of them like, oh yeah, he probably buys used shit on Craigslist too. Like, and here he is showing up at your house one night. You know what I mean? It's, it's kind of a wild story.
He's a race car driver, not a millionaire.
Well,
not so much anymore.
Let's maybe not then.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty well for himself now, at least. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I was never one of those kids that just kind of took all these experiences for granted and jumped all over them and bought the fastest car I could and beat the snot out of it. I was
the Monteros.
I was right. I was trained to take care of things like this, and so I was really passionate about it at this time in my life. And I remember my father left for a vacation or something for like a weekend or a couple of days, and the Pantera was sitting in the garage as always, and we had a babysitter that was staying with us, a house sitter more. For like the time that he was gone, and she was enthralled by the car, which was really funny to me because I hadn't met anybody that really knew what the heck it was. And I told her, I'll start it up for you. I gotta start it up for you. You gotta hear it. Well, me not really understanding what that was, how that could have been not the greatest idea for this old car that needed to actually be warmed up and I'll have all the fluids run through it because they were cork gaskets and whatnot. I fired the car up for like 5 minutes and, let it run and just rumble and, surprised her and blew her out of the water and then turned it off. And of course, when my dad got home, I was like, Dad, guess what? He's like, what? I said, I showed, Lauren the Pantera. He goes, oh, cool. What did she think? It's like, she was so blown away. I started it up for her and she loved it and it was so loud. And his face just like turned cherry red. Like, are you excuse me? What did you just say? So
it could have been worse. You could have taken the car for a drive.
Yeah. So he told me I wasn't able to, drive the car for a month, which was like, he would take me out to a parking lot and teach me how to drive a little bit more. So it was quite a bummer. So I never did that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Of all the things for your son to do to your Pantera when you go on vacation, starting it and letting it idle in the garage is pretty low on the scale of bad things that could have happened.
That's what I think, but
whatever. You did something wrong. She'll be punished. I get it.
Of course. Taught me something good.
I get it. For sure.
But
well, that's cool. So that explains 100% why you're into what you're into because you were forced it upon yourself.
Oh.
Without actually being forced upon yourself. But
I couldn't help it. I mean, I have... And, you find your way into it because sometimes you make really bad decisions. Case in point, a 1985 XR600 Honda, which was a dirt bike, not a car, but, still in the same bloodline, so to speak.
Yeah. Gasoline powered.
Yeah, gasoline power
tires.
motor with 2 tires attached to it. And I bought it partially for the nostalgia because I'm just a sucker for old things because they're just easier. And it was cool to say, yeah, my dirt bike's got a double pumper on it, and which most don't.
Right.
So the thing was super cool until I realized it wasn't. And it had quite a few issues. So I ran into kind of a booby trap with that one. It just, any time I fixed it, there was always something else that went wrong with it.
Sounds like my Raider.
Yeah, it was quite a mess. Quite a mess.
And yet, much like my Raider, you persisted until you got it right, and I'm persisting as well.
Yeah, and then decided, all right, I'll get rid of this thing.
Well, it's funny, I said that about the Raider not that long ago, now that's running again, and I think Jordan was going to kill me because he wants me to take it out somewhere first.
Yeah.
Take it out and put it out of its misery.
Use it first before you get rid of it, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else, Andrew, you want to talk about this evening? Or
Well, how did you get out here? You drove out here.
I did drive out here. Yeah. So at the time, I was working at a outdoor shop in California, of course, and I met my, fiance to be at this point in my life, and she, we were hanging out, whatnot, and I finally went out to go meet her for one evening, and I brought my Montero along because obviously that was the only mode of transportation I had. And I show up to, where she was to meet her, and she hops in the truck because we had to go park it somewhere. And she didn't even say hi to me, like nothing. Didn't even say hello, didn't acknowledge that I was even there, and just looked around as she opened up the door and was like, wow, this thing is so cool. I was just enthralled by this little Montero. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, hey.
That's a good reaction.
Hey, how you doing? So that was a great reaction. So that night when I went home, I got a text message from her at about 3 o'clock in the morning of an Auto Trader ad for a 1987 Mitsubishi Montero.
Excellent.
She goes, can we go look at this thing? I was like, oh, boy. I better slow down here.
This is not of your first date, of course.
This was pretty much my first date.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, so it was match made in heaven.
Yes, apparently it was.
So,
as I said, the one and only person to successfully use a old short wheelbase Montero to pick up a woman.
Montero matchmaking.
Yes.
Oh, it was good times. Yeah. So
and now she's your fiance.
she is now my fiance. Yeah.
So it worked out in the end.
Fantastically.
Yes.
She didn't end up. So we bought this truck for her. She was going to drive it and use it. She originally was going to do like a tour of the national parks around the country with it as an adventure mobile, and that didn't really pan out because life gets in the way, and it was stick shift. So she had never driven stick shift before, which was my perfect opportunity to make sure that she wasn't going to disappear from my life.
Yeah, you had a second date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
had a second date.
Teach me how to drive the truck you took me to buy.
So taught her how to drive it, and then we, I was going to college in Maine, and we packed everything up in this back of this little black 4-cylinder Montero, and hit the trail for the East Coast. If with the wind pushing us from the behind.
It's a long drive in a Montero.
55 miles an hour with the wind going, and it was one of the coolest experiences of my life. I mean, the thing just kept going. It was a phenomenal experience. The people always talk about all these old cars. They're incapable of reliability, and they're this and they're that, and they're difficult and blah 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 blah. Well, I traversed the entire country with a 1987 4-cylinder Montero.
Carbureted.
Nonetheless carbureted, yes. Like I said, 55 miles an hour, 60 if the wind was blowing from behind. So
They go faster than that, but they overheat if they do.
Good stuff. So, yeah, we drove it across the country, and I had my other silver Montero shipped out because it needed an engine rebuild. I saved it before a catastrophic head gasket failure from a lack of maintenance on the coolant system.
As they do.
Good old previous owners.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So it was college that brought you out here,
It was college that brought me out here, yep.
and now you just have kind of stayed for work, and
I stayed for work and, just sort of trying to figure it out.
you guys are
as I
planning
go.
on moving back to California, though, I think.
Definitely planning on moving back to California.
Yeah, it's definitely a better.
Only
place to-
because, I mean, I thought it was, because I wanted to escape California because I had grown up there and I was sick and tired of the city and all the people and the concrete jungle and blah, 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 blah. But what I didn't realize is how much different the East Coast is from the West Coast. I mean, monumentally different between the people, the climate, the adventure climate. And what I mean by that is the people that are out there to make sure that you can go adventure with your vehicles, and the people that are there to make sure that you really can't. Because let's be honest, there are people out there like that. They don't want us,
and
doing
all
these
of
things.
them live in Massachusetts.
Unfortunately.
Mostly New England. New England is a lot of, it's very open to hiking, everything else. You do human powered in New England.
Yep.
But it's very, very rare to find a ways to use your 4x4s in New England.
Or dirt bikes, or
dirt bikes.
quads.
Yeah,
Quads
Yeah.
or anything. Which was a total, I mean, I couldn't even comprehend it because I had grown up on the West Coast in the desert, riding for miles upon miles upon miles
Of nothing.
of nothing for as far as the eye could see. Mountains, desert, forest, whatever it was. If there was a trail, you could ride it.
Summer here is great. Winter's pretty tough though.
That's another difference too. And people always ask me, what the heck brought you all the way out to Maine from California?
Desire to do something different.
Yeah, I was like, well, they go, well, you must be afraid of the cold. I'm like, nah, not really. We go up north and we get 14 feet of snow, so it's no different ball game. But yeah, just trying for something different, and it's been a great experience. I've met a fantastic amount of people, like my good friends here, Andrew and Brad, and
we're not fantastic, but thank you for saying that.
Well, to each their own. And we've had some great adventures, and we'll continue to do so.
We have. I can't wait to go do some more wheeling this year.
I know. It's going to be so much fun.
This year it'll be you in the passenger seat, though, instead of me,
I'm going to have my rig torn apart. Oh, it's going to be so sad.
That's all right. I owe you a ride because you gave me a ride for the past couple of years.
This is true.
There you go.
It was brilliant to watch you in that Silverado, though. Oh, my goodness.
Well, hopefully I don't ever have to do that again.
Yeah, let's hope not. But yeah, it's been quite the adventure out here. I think it's, I tried it, and I don't think it's all that set out for me, only because...
But at least you've done it.
Yeah.
I have the regret of saying I never tried living somewhere else.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem for me is all the salt. That really gets me during the winter.
That's why I want to leave. Yeah.
It's the hardest thing to deal with, because you have these vehicles that you love and that you take care of, and that you augment the maintenance faults that the previous owner kind of caused.
And then they rot away.
Yeah, that's why we have winter cars.
Yeah.
You have to have a winter car. If you have anything nice that you want to keep nice, you have to buy something that's shitty to drive it all winter.
Or move to the West Coast.
Right.
That's true.
Because even the Pacific Northwest doesn't use salt.
Yeah.
So anywhere in the West Coast, you're fine.
This is true.
Yeah.
But growing up here, it's funny is everybody wants to move west.
Right.
Yeah.
Like my fiance.
Yeah.
Well, she lived there before.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah.
That's where we met.
You dragged her back.
I did drag her back.
It's all your fault.
Yes, it is all my fault.
Yeah.
I live that one every day.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
At least you're going back.
It's been worth it.
I'm going to. It's okay. So you guys won't be alone.
Since we're in May, so May to September, I won't want to move. But then once
November 1st hits.
Fall hits, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to move.
Yeah. You kind of forget when it's beautiful days. Like we had like Friday, like yesterday was like a stunningly gorgeous day.
Oh, it was fantastic.
And like I went and got lunch down at the Salem Willows from work, and like sat down by the ocean eating my lunch, and I was like, I don't ever want to leave this place.
Yeah, it took.
And then today it was like 42 degrees and raining, and I was like, what the? Is this crap? It should be summertime now.
Yeah, I had the Mercedes out, driving it around. Wonderful. But
yeah, so we'll do a quick rundown of your cars. You have the Shogun.
I do have an 89 Shogun.
The Raider.
The Raider. Yeah, the Raider. I forgot about that.
And your summertime play toy is a
1985 Mercedes-Benz 300D.
Okay, what chassis would that be? W123.
W123.
123. Okay.
Yes, the iconic OM617 engine, turbo diesel 5-cylinder.
Yep.
Fantastic car.
Very neat
I
car.
didn't realize there were 5 cylinders.
Yeah, 5
Or
cylinders.
turbos.
Super weird. 5-cylinder.
Very, very neat cars.
Very, very unique.
So he's actually borrowing my truck to drag his Raider back home, and I'll have the Mercedes for the next couple of days, Andrew, if you'd like to go for a drive.
All right.
So we can experience something a little different.
Yes, you have to. Low and slow, as I call it.
Yeah.
It's very classy.
I drive a diesel. I like them.
I do too. I don't know why we don't have more of them. It's ridiculous.
You know why we don't have more of them is because they tried to sell crap ones here in the 70s and 80s.
That's true, because of all the GM.
They ruined the perception.
Right, they just increase the compression ratio. Hey, that's a great idea. Bang goes an engine. And
yes, they sold crap diesels then, and then Volkswagen sold cheating diesels, and now we'll never get diesels.
Correct.
So you just have to make do with what we've got, and I guess Mercedes.
The few that snuck through.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to do a quick drive, maybe Monday or Tuesday in that car, and
absolutely
do a little photo shoot for you.
Please, please, please do.
Yeah.
Just I love when other people get to experience my cars, because not everybody drives these vehicles.
Yeah. I love driving everything. So
yeah, exactly. And it's it's an experience. It's not the fastest thing on the planet, but man, do you feel good driving it, because it's the most beautiful.
What I say earlier when you pulled it in, it's the. It's not the speed that makes it fun to drive. It's the air of superiority.
Pretty much.
But anyway, I'm looking forward to a couple days in it, so
yeah,
it should be fun. Not that my truck is anything to write home about, so
No,
So,
but it is a very, very loud diesel, so that'll be a lot different.
That's
I'll
true.
be actually being able to hear the turbo.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Rear tires are brand new. I bet they come back the same way.
I can't make any promises.
I hope you can.
Oh, shoot.
Anyway. All right.
Well, that was a fun one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
It
thanks
was
for coming down.
super fun.
Love to
Yeah.
have you back on another time where we have a topic to talk about, not just talk about your life. but-
Yeah, sorry, it was all
No,
about
it was
me.
cool. It was cool to get your life story out there because
No, we like that.
We like to have a guest come on the first time they're on, kind of tell why they're into cars and what brought them to where they are today. And next time you come on, we can have something else to talk about and
Yeah.
move
sure
on
we
from
will.
there.
I'll
So,
be able to give an update on the Raider
Yep.
and see how
That's
that's
for
going.
sure.
That's going to be such a fun project.
That's
I
for
can't
sure.
can't wait to get it finished. But
Excellent.
Well, hopefully we can do one from the trail. We'll try to do that.
Yes.
that
Yeah.
would
Some
be
point.
super
That'd be
cool.
fun.
Record with everybody.
Yeah.
And actually, almost everybody's been a guest at this point because Jordan's been on, Eric's been on, you've been on,
Yep.
and two of us are on all the time.
Yep.
And who else goes on those trips? Chris Dorado hasn't been on yet because he doesn't really like his voice in the radio, so it's no big deal.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah.
Chris.
Who?
I'll
who
call you out,
else?
but you need to come on the episode. That's really the main.
That's really the main
That's the
group.
main group.
I think
Yeah.
everyone.
Yep.
So, and you get Tony with the Montero Sport. But yeah, that's pretty much the main group. So, almost everybody's been on, so we can do a trail talk episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All
if,
right.
if you've got any social media or anything you want to plug, you can do that. Or
Oh yeah. I'm.
Yeah, he lives in Maine. He doesn't have internet. Remember?
Yeah. I mean, I try to keep on top of it, and I do better when I'm not, stuck between work and the university. So.
Well, we can find your updates on the Mitsubishi Montero
Yeah, I
Northeast Facebook
post
group.
every once in a while,
All right.
but you can find me, at AJ Vega 8J Vega.
Yep,
on
that's your Instagram. Yep.
all right. All right. So yeah, people can see what stuff looks
So
like.
number 8, J Vega.
The number 8 J
Yeah.
Vega. So I usually just post stuff about the Mercedes
Right.
and the Shogun.
Excellent. That's
Good
all
enough.
we do is post pictures
Yeah,
of our
I
cars.
mean,
Nobody wants
why
to see
else?
nobody wants to see a selfie, so
Yeah.
I'll put a picture of my cars
Forget
up.
the selfie.
Yeah.
Put the selfie of the car up. That's the best.
Cars
Exactly.
or dogs. It's
Yes.
fine.
Sometimes dogs.
Cars, dogs, or trails.
Sometimes landscapes. Yep,
Yeah.
trails and landscapes.
Yeah.
As always, you can follow Off Topic Podcast on Facebook, Off Topic Podcast, Off Topic on Instagram.
Yep.
Follow me on Instagram, Race Than Anger. Brad, where can they find
You
you?
can find me on Instagram at TSISS350.
All right. And as always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.